M'agradaria saber quina valoració en fas.
Bon día.
Well, hello.
Pues nada, competición más que ilusionante.
Very excited about the competition.
Rivales difíciles, como no podía ser de otra manera.
Very difficult teams to play. 22 teams in the competition.
Nos ha tocado un grupo pues complicado.
32, sorry, and we're in a very difficult group.
O sea que bueno, será el momento de valorarlo cuando nos toque.
So now it's time to evaluate the teams that we're going to play, get to know them better. We know them already, but learn even more.
Muy atractivo.
But no, a very attractive proposition.
Quería saber cómo estás viendo a Neymar y si le ves en condiciones de jugar.
Asking about Neymar and whether he's ready to play tomorrow.
Pues lo he visto muy bien.
He seems fine to me.
Recuperado y
pretty much fully recovered.
Con una situación normal de un jugador que ha estado.
The normal situation of a player who's been out for 2 weeks. He's been training very well, and we'll see tomorrow what decision we make.
Hola, Luis. Aquí Jordi Borda de Catalunya Ràdio. Volia preguntar per Sergio Busquets si després de l'ensurt de l'altre dia està per jugar en condicions.
Question about Sergio Busquets and again his fitness.
Ha podido entrenar con nosotros ya desde
He's been training since yesterday, and he looks okay to me. But again, I insist we'll evaluate things tomorrow and decide whether he can play or not. But he's trained, so that means that in theory, yes, he's okay to play.
De RAC1, volia preguntar-li per Sergi Roberto en aquesta posició.
Question about Sergi Roberto and the right-back position, and whether he's fully adapted to playing at that position yet, or whether he still needs time.
Si cuando uno juega en una sola posición es difícil controlar el 100% de lo que sucede.
When you only play in one position, then it can be difficult to control that position 100%. So imagine what it's like when you play in an unfamiliar situation. He's more used to playing in midfield, but he's been adapting to the team's needs. And I think it's perfect for a manager to have a player who's so versatile, who can play as a central playmaker, he can play on the wing, and he can play at fullback.
En las diferentes posiciones, porque sí que es cierto que cuando puedes jugar en varias hay más cosas a controlar.
Of course, when you can play in different positions, then there are far more different things that you need to learn to control. But I think I feel very confident with his ability.
El año pasado, el único equipo al que no pudisteis ganar en ninguno de los dos partidos fue el Málaga.
The only team you didn't beat in either game last season was Málaga. Drew in Málaga and lost at home.
Pues claro que sirve.
Yes, of course, those are references. It's the same manager. Obviously, some of the players have changed. It's a difficult game for us. And especially being the first home league game. And we need to overcome the difficulties that Malaga caused to us last season. And I'm sure they'll cause us those same problems tomorrow. So it's a very attractive challenge for us because it's true, we didn't beat them in either game last season. And those were two games that we really did need to win. So let's see if we've managed to improve certain things and can beat them tomorrow.
Silvia Ortiz en directo para el Matí de Cope. El otro día en el comunicado de Dani Alves no se especificaba el tiempo de baja que iba a estar Dani.
Talk about Dani Alves, the uncertainty about how long he's going to be out. And whether that's Luis Enrique's decision not to reveal the exact time that players are going to be out. The information regarding injuries is information that belongs to the patient. We take the information that we have. We consider whether it's necessary or not to release that information, because to protect the player and the first team.
Luis, aquí, Carlos Escolán en directo para Radio Marca. Buenas tardes. Me gustaría preguntarte, ya sé que has dicho que bueno, cuando vayan llegando los rivales ya los analizarás de la Liga de Campeones, pero
he's talking about not wanting to talk too much about the Champions League teams until the reports have come, but
no sé si eso es una ventaja y si podrías profundizar un poquito en
generally there are certain advantages. There's a long trip to Belarus, but generally it would seem a relatively simple group. Simple for who? Who says it's simple? Yeah, there's two relatively short distances, but there's one that's a long distance. It's a difficult group, there's no doubt about that. Perhaps not as difficult as Juventus, Man City, Borussia Dortmund and Juventus, but it's still a difficult group, no doubt about that.
El Leverkusen lo conocemos del año pasado.
We've got Roma, probably the hardest team in Group 3. Leverkusen, Madrid found it very difficult to beat them last season.
Yo no sé dónde está el asequible.
I don't know why you think it's easy. Yes, with the champions. Obviously, we need to try to become the first team in the Champions League era to win the tournament twice in a row. But I think these are teams that are going to attract people to the stadium. We're starting with an away fixture. I don't know why you think it's easy. Tell me why you think the games are going to be easy. Okay, you're going back to the Olimpico in Rome. So is that particularly special because, of course, you were manager there? Yes, of course. I was only there for 1 season. But the people there treated me very, very well. The club and the players, in general, the fans. It was a very nice time I had there. So yes, I am especially excited about going back there. We did play them in the Gamper, but now it's going to be even more of Roma. It's a wonderful city, and there's a lot of people there that I appreciate very much. What does it mean to you having the trident available? Well, yes, the more players that I have fit, then so much the better. Of course, then we've got more possibilities as a club, and the manager, myself, I've got more players to pick from. And those are 3 of the best attacking players in the world. They make a huge difference. But over the season, there are always going to be players that, for different reasons, can't play. So it's always a joy to have those players, but there are still players that aren't available, but let's hope they come back as quickly as possible.
Te quería preguntar algo alejado del mundo del fútbol. No sé si ayer viste la carrera de 200 metros de Usain Bolt.
He's asking about Usain Bolt and the 200 meters in the World Championship yesterday. Whether we could call Usain Bolt the Messi of athletics. I didn't see it live, but I watched it recorded. There's not much to see, it's 20 seconds. But yes, it is a good comparison. The greatest sprinter of all time, there's no doubt about that. And the greatest footballer of all time, Leo Messi, no doubt too.
Buenos días, mister. Rafael Iber, sobre Tuttosport. Le quería preguntar acerca de Totti por primera vez.
Question about Totti, who seems to be struggling to get into the first 11 at Roma. He's always been a regular. Do you think Totti can still be important for Roma? Perhaps just coming off the bench, or whether he'll end up in the first team? I don't know. I don't really have the information to be able to give a valid opinion. I don't attend their training sessions. It's Garcia who obviously has that information. He can answer that question, but there's no doubting Totti's qualities. And he can start games still and still be decisive in games. He did so last season. And even coming off the bench as substitute, he can do that too. But I repeat, it's the Roma manager who has the information to answer that particular question. Going back to Málaga, they've not conceded a goal against Barca since Luis Enrique has been manager. So are they the team that best adapts to Barca's attacking style? Well, if we talk about last year's game in Málaga and the game played here, they were 2 games in which Málaga were very, very effective coming forward. We were not so much. We needed to improve on our positional play. We needed to work on ways to create more scoring opportunities. So our effectiveness was low against Málaga. And they're a team that's very good at working on the transition between phases, and they managed to hurt us on the counter-attack. I remember the game played here where we could have won that game, but we didn't. They did very well. I hope the circumstances tomorrow are very different and that we can generate much more goal-scoring chances and that we can take those chances.
en el que de nuevo se nos...
But I know it's going to be a difficult game where they're going to put us to the test, and I'm really looking forward to going out and playing this game tomorrow.
Ayer, bueno, Messi fue escogido el mejor de la Champions.
Messi named best player yesterday, also the best goal. Suarez got one more vote than Ronaldo. Could you analyse in general? Well, it has to be positive. I can't really say anything else other than that. This is the result of all the hard work that we did last season. The players are intelligent. They know that football is about living the present, and it's always the next game. You need to once again go out and do things well. You need to work hard all week to make sure you're in the right condition to play the game. And let's hope that the same thing happens in the Champions League draw next year, with once again Barca players collecting all the awards. Messi named best player in Europe. Does that mean the Ballon d'Or is his really by default? Well, I've commented on this kind of thing so many times before. I also alluded to that in a previous question. But let's see what the people decide. I think if we look at the Barca season, and especially Messi's season, they're well worthy of praise. And I'm sure that he'll win recognition, as he has been doing up until now.
Pilar Suárez, del periódico La Verdad de México. ¿Sirve de referencia pensar en el Málaga de la temporada pasada, tomando en cuenta que
talking about taking last season's Malaga, whether they are really a reference, because 9 Malaga players left and 6 new players have come in. How much does the current Malaga have to do with the old team? Well, that's a lot of players that have gone out, but also it's a large number of players that have come in. But the manager hasn't trained, and he's the man who brings the ideas and the concepts. He gets the players doing what he wants to do. Javi's a manager who I know very well, because we were together in the Spanish national team. We also played together many times, and also in the B team. And I know that he'll do everything he can to make things difficult for us, particularly from set pieces. He knows where they have their strengths. He knows what players he has and how to use them. I just hope tomorrow that we get things more right than we did last year, and that we can counter his decisions.
Solo de la sexta, 3:30. Supongo que el fin de semana pasado te alegró el empate del Sporting en el Molinón. ¿Hasta qué punto es anecdótico?
I'm sure you're happy about Sporting drawing with Real Madrid last week. And how much does that affect Real Madrid as a candidate for the title? Now you're already 2 points ahead of them. Of course, I wasn't that happy with Sporting drawing. I wanted Sporting to win. But hey, that's just the first game. We can't draw conclusions from one game. If that was the case, then well, let's just go.
En relación a lo que sucedió ayer, Messi proclamado mejor jugador de Europa.
Messi again, best player in Europe. Talking about his votes compared with Cristiano Ronaldo. Whether you think the voting difference was the real difference between them, or look, it's not really for me to evaluate the difference between these two players. I say who I think is the best, but then it's up to other people to make their own opinions clear, and it's not for me to question that. Okay, it's a Uruguayan reporter interested in Luis Suarez.
2 años casi, así que un placer poder hacerte la consulta sobre Luis. ¿Qué te ha parecido el inicio de su temporada?
If you could speak about how his season has started and his expectations for him, and what his morale is like, and how far do you think he can go this season, and what role can he play in Barca? Luis had a difficult arrival because of his suspension. Then when did he start playing? October? He could start playing. The media sort of spoke about doubts whether he was good enough to play for Barca, etc., but I think he managed to turn away those rumours by the way he played on the pitch, and he's proved to be a clearly important player in the squad. Not just attacking, but also he's a player that tracks back, helps with defensive duties as well. He often starts moves, creates pressure. He's a key member of the squad. There's still room for improvement, as with any player. It's good that he's starting this season from the start without any impediments. I've got no doubt that he's going to be an important player this year. If you look at his stats last season, they were what you would expect from a player of his caliber. And he's going to help us to win titles. The transfer market closes in 3 days. Will there be any further signings? Or will you wait until January? No, those are all different opinions, you could say. We're always working on the transfer market, always looking at ways of improving the squad, looking into the prices as well. There are very important things that need to be considered. But there's no urgency, and then there's January as well, when we have 2 players who are going to be joining the squad and we can look at other possibilities. Yes, we're always examining different things. Players could also leave. These things could happen. We're always open to any kind of possibility. 2 more questions.
Buenos días, Andrea De Paoli, Corriere dello Sport, Diario Nacional Italiano, con base en Roma. Hemos hablado de qué tal el sorteo para el Barça y como aficionado de la Roma, ¿cómo evalúa el sorteo?
Talking about the Champions League draw, this is an Italian journalist who'd like him to comment on Roma. Well, for them, it's a group that's got the current champions, ourselves. Then there's Bayer Leverkusen, who I think are of a similar kind of level. It's always going to be an open group, and if teams get things right, then they're all going to have a chance of qualifying. But they're going to need to perform well in every game, and it's always difficult to do that in the Champions League because games can always get complicated. They're very different to league games. You know, where you need greater technical ability, greater fitness is required. It's just a higher standard in general in the Champions League. You said Neymar was practically ready to play again, and it was normal for a player who's been out for 2 weeks. But you're saying that he's not 100% and can't play 90 minutes. 100%, I don't think you've really got any players at this stage of the season. But I'm telling you, it's logical, his situation, for a player who's been out for, what, 2 weeks? Sometime he couldn't train. But he's particularly special as far as fitness. He's a light player, very quick at getting back into his form. Look at how the GPS responds to how he's working in training, and that shows how much his work rate is. We'll see tomorrow. There are different players with different kinds of physique, but I'll say if it was a different player, then probably he wouldn't be able to play, but this is Neymar. A question in English now.
Dan Williams, CCTV News. Apologies for the question in English. Obviously, last season was a great season for the club, but often success is often followed by a slump in form. How, though, have you managed to keep the players focused and hungry for this campaign?
Bueno, pues un poco lo que he comentado también aquí.
Well, that's a bit what I said earlier. The players are intelligent. They know what they won last year, and that means that they can access new competitions this year. And also, we've still got the Club World Cup to come. But the idea is to keep motivating the players, to keep them thinking that there are still things that they can improve. They're only as good as what they're going to do in the next game. But the fans are still going to be demanding, they're still going to want to keep winning. And the players are aware of that. They know that there needs to be individual effort and a group effort together. Those are all aspects that need to be worked on in order to have more options. But I've got a unique group of players, a quite extraordinary squad, and they're always ambitious. They're always trying to improve their performances. Okay, so about 11 o'clock tomorrow, the squad will be announced for the evening game against Málaga.